Welcome back, radio entrepreneurs, listeners, and fans. I'm producer Jillian King, and I'm excited to introduce you all to the third and final part of the Spring 2024 FBA Family Business Panel discussion, revealing the secrets to family business success, building your great family business in 2024. In this segment, we will be exploring topics to help you build your great family business. If you have not yet seen parts 1 and 2 of this panel discussion, we recommend you head over to radioentrepreneurs.com or any of our many channels to catch the first 2 segments. These segments are part of our ongoing series on building family business success. All of these discussions are intended to be highly relevant to both family businesses and entrepreneurs of all types, so be sure to follow Radio Entrepreneurs on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, or any of the many other platforms we stream on to see those first 2 segments. Next, I will introduce our panelists and the moderator for this discussion. We are joined today by returning panelist Stephen Wilchins, founding partner at Wilchins, Cosentino, and Novins, and Richard Hirschen, partner at Gray, Gray, as well as our guest panelists, Michael Nowak, president of Redemption Plus, Sandy Davis, president of HRG Development and formerly president of Pioneer Consolidated, and Kristen Burke, chief growth officer of Burke Distributing Corporation. Last but not least, Radio Entrepreneurs host and CEO of Mage LLC, Jeffrey Davis. Welcome, Jeffrey. I will now hand the conversation over to you.
Thank you very much. Last and sometimes least, we with this group, definitely an esteemed group of interviewees. Steve, can I ask you to start off with our transitional question from our second seminar to Michael?
Sure. So we were speaking, Michael, about governance, and you made a statement concerning that you like to keep things simple. Your dad likes to keep things simple. Presume you feel the same way. Could you explain that a little more? And is simple the right way to handle it as time goes on? And does that anticipate all the potential issues that potentially could come about if it's not thought through? So does simple mean that conversation is done? My dad's going to make that decision. It's fine for now.
Yeah, so with Rhode Island Novelty, ultimately he has the final say. It's his company. My place there, hopefully I'm the best person for the job, right? And that's what I strive to be every day. But ultimately it's his decision. So when it comes to corporate governance, it's pretty simple. It's him. He has great legal advice. I think for him, in the future, he's relatively young. He's 61, 62. So yeah, he's going to have to start thinking a little bit more as he ages within the business and making sure that the business is, in the future going to be well run. As family members get older and there's significant others, there's spouses, right? Things can get a little bit more complex. But for right now, as I said earlier, it's run like a big startup, right? Where there's certain things we intentionally choose not to really focus on now. Focus on growing the business, but down the road, there is going to be more thought that's going to have to be put into some of these governance topics that right now aren't really being thought about.
Sometimes we can't plan, and sometimes things happen differently than we anticipate. And fortunately, you have the resources and the time, okay, as well as the fact that I think we heard that your business itself is separate, but you're meshing it in the distribution side and some of the processes. So in effect, that's going to really impact you if we have a Sandy situation down
100%,
right? So
100%.
Okay, so we just want to wake you up and say, hey, maybe you should be shaking.
I'm not trying to go out there and find a new warehouse right now. Okay. Absolutely not.
Yeah, be a big warehouse you have to go through.
It would be a big warehouse, correct?
Yeah. Okay.
Steve, I'm going to ask you to carry the ball again for me. I always like handing it off. And maybe you have an estate planning question for all of them, because I think, this year we're going to have a substantial change to the transfer of assets within families. And the families I talk to who are smart are all trying to prepare for that event. So maybe again, you can take the ball and ask the question.
Okay, so assuming that everyone has taken advantage of the unlimited exemption, the question is, how would you like to see ultimately when either in Sandy's probably situation is a lot different than Michael and Kristen's situation at this point. So let's split the question. For Michael and Kristen, how would you like to envision it down the road? Your plan. How do you envision the plan to go? Whoever has the control now, and what do you see down the road? And what do you see as ways and strategies to implement that?
Yeah, to be honest, this is a topic I don't spend much time thinking about. I'm very focused on growing the business, and especially the one that I oversee now. It's, I'm 4 years into it, so we're growing. So my head's just been down focused on that. I think first and foremost, so I'm going to speak very broadly. I care about the ongoing, if the company can last into the future, right? And you have to reevaluate it all the time. Is this the best vehicle to accomplish X, Y, and Z? But if the answer is yes every year, then ultimately I want to make sure that the company is going to be well taken care of, where it's not going to be, pillaged by family members, external people, so how best can you keep the company whole and away from all of the noise, if that makes sense.
So you're talking, I presume you're speaking of your dad's company, but how about
I'm also talking about
mine, but you have your own family to worry about, right? If something happened to you.
I do. Right now, one of them's 2 and the other one is 13 months.
Right, it's premature, but
Never too early to start.
I know, correct.
Just so you know that there's major ramifications if it's not at least thought through slightly.
So my wife and I have started that process, currently right now, but when it comes to the business part, we're not there yet.
From my experience in that, I think it's maybe a bit different as well, since I'm 4th generation. So we've had to do a lot of estate plannings over the 90 years. And I think what's interesting, and it's been an evolution, is the fact that for the first 3 generations, the 3rd generation was the first time family members started exiting the business. And my generation will be the first time that there are owners that won't work in the business at all. So, from that standpoint, that's something that we've really been trying to plan for, checks and balances, understanding the right process of how we can navigate that. What's the communication? What's the expectations on communication? How much say do people get? All of those things we're continuing to work on, but it was a big ask on my part, was to have all of those systems in place, because at the end of the day, I don't want it to become personal. It will always be personal because it's family business, but what can we do to eliminate or reduce the personal impact that this inherently will have? So for me, I want to preserve my relationships and I want to do as much as possible before any issues come about to be able to navigate that.
And this is also an issue for Sandy, because even though she was able to liquidate Pioneer, she's still holding the presidency and the value in the business of HRG development. And Sandy, I don't know I know you think about these things, because there is no next generation to take over for Sandy or any interest at any level, just the benefits.
So how does that play out, Sandy? And who plays the role? If there's value there, how do you keep it going?
Well,
First, I'd like to discuss what we did with Pioneer Consolidated, because it was invaluable for the family. We did a GRAT, and at the time that we did the GRAT, the value of the business was less than half what we ended up selling for. And if you know, I know you, the professionals, know the upside of a GRAT, the stock gets valued. At the time of the GRAT Plus, it's undervalued too, because I believe of the amount of ownership versus being just individual assets. It's being in a corporation. So we were able to take 50% of the upside of the value of the company and distribute it to my sister and myself. And it came out of my mother's estate. So, you know, at this time, my dad was already gone, and it was only my mother that was going to be the ultimate beneficiary of the entire estate,
Right.
other than some bequests. So it was a huge impact on us financially, and what the tax implication was when my mother eventually did pass away.
Right. So a GRAT, just for the people, it's an estate planning structure to allow it to move to someone else outside of the transfer or his estate. But the issue for you right now is, what do you do now? Okay,
Right.
your interest, how do you do you maintain it? Do you sell the interest? Are you able to sell it that your sister has? I mean, those are questions, do you get an individual trustee? Do you have a board of trustees? Do you set up
Mhm.
what's called a personal trust company now? So these are all questions that you would want to ask and think through down the road.
Right, absolutely. Well, you know, I'm really very, very involved in all of the family's financial assets. I did for my mom before she passed, and now I do for my sister. And we've already set up, we have irrevocable trusts that have already put into place from before my mother's passing. There's quite a bit of money that's set aside that's already out of my estate, out of our estate. So, you know, gradually, and I take a look at the whole picture with what the exemptions are and who's left, but I'm always looking and open to other vehicles that we can use. But so far, we're in good. I'd say we're in good shape. The family's in good shape.
But you don't have a succession plan for what you're managing now, which is what I was asking.
No, I don't. But the way that I am running the company right now is that I'm trying to wind it down so that there really will not be an issue. That's, of course, if I were to be gone tomorrow, that's another story. But you know, the company is smaller than it was. We're not looking. This company is not being grown. This company really is being distributed and carefully managed to get the most. It's properties. I'm not developing the properties any longer, and I am in charge now for selling. I do have some plans with solar that will bring income in later, but other than that, there's not a huge. This is not like Pioneer Consolidated. This is a very different company and situation.
I'll go on to the next question, if that's okay. And I'm going to do a little pivot so that we can have our listeners hear a different perspective on a different angle. Has social consciousness and awareness impacted your business? Does anybody want to take that one?
I could say that the social awareness, again, I'm going back to Pioneer Coverall. My father's whole insight was the environment, and the whole company was really set up and designed to protect the environment from debris being hauled across the country. So I would say that part is social awareness.
And laws were passed after by
Yes.
states,
In
by the
all
majority of
50
states.
All 50 states, yes. And the company started in the 60s, so it was very, very few. But he knew, he even said that someday this will be a law everywhere. And he was right.
And
So
Kristen, sorry.
I'm sorry. No, I was going to say for us, we are very active in the zoo, museum, and aquarium business, so the gift shop business. And zoos now want to reduce their plastic consumption. So we've had to move away from packaging with plastic to packaging with like netting, and that's been a big move. A lot of our stuffed animals, or as we call it, plush, is made with recycled plastic now.
Kristen?
I think kind of taking it from a different perspective from an impact of the business is, in particular, I think speaking from my generation, is the workforce. So adjusting your business to meet Gen Z and millennials has always been a shift. And it's, the expression, well, that's how we used to always do it. I'm like, well, that's just not going to work going forward. So having to look at how you run your business and meet in the middle is something we're continuing to navigate.
Again, moving around, you've all been part of and could be called successors. How would you go about picking a successor for yourselves? And what would you be looking for?
So assuming that the business will have to change, it would have to be somebody that was different than me. And I think it's very easy to fall into the dilemma. We all like to hire people that are like us, and that's how groupthink forms. So being really cognizant of that, and the business will change. Don't know. Wish I had a crystal ball. I don't. And so picking somebody that was going to be the best fit for that change, so somebody who would be different than me, is where I would be starting.
I think regardless if it's a family member or not, you can't look at the individual. You have to look at their skill sets and what they offer. So what's their background? How's their performance been? Are they a cultural fit? A last name does not necessarily mean all of those things are yeses. So ensuring that you are looking at the person as a leader and not a family leader.
Sandy, you're going to pass on that one?
Well, since we don't have a successor, and my job at this time and my goal, I believe, is, as I said, to wind down the business that is left, and just to secure the whole estate, though, which will need some training, and someone or people have to be in place so that everything our families have worked for does not get preserved when I'm no longer able to be the overseer. So that's a goal.
My father used to talk to me a lot about banks. So I'm wondering, how important has banking been in the growth and sustainability of your businesses?
Massive for us. We have very strong banking relationships, and without them, we would not have made it through to the third generation. So, we're very thankful, and we're very focused on our banking relationships, because it takes money to grow, and having people that believe in you and your vision is critical.
Have you used an investment banker at all in your business?
No, we have not explored that. We have a very strong relationship with Bank of America, which has really helped us through the years, but we have not looked into like private equity.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, you use banks?
We use banks. In our business, one of our lifebloods, probably the biggest lifeblood, is our lifeline is going to be our inventory management. And so the banks, allow us to keep fueling that operation. So we love our bankers.
And Sandy, you don't?
Well, we were lucky enough to have a phenomenal cash flow, and we were self-funded with Pioneer, and the same with HRG. The sales of properties helps to pay expenses and just gets reinvested. But I know many years back when my dad was alive, he used banks all the time. I remember him, being nervous when, with prime rates were going completely sky high. He needed, he also ran a heavy construction business. That was one of his businesses before the other two. And he had, huge loans with the bank so he could purchase the equipment and then sell it. So it has historically been a part of the family business.
I like my last question. I think it came from Rich, and that is looking in the mirror. How would your employees describe your personality and traits? Self-awareness is a key to good leadership, and you'll see there's a lot of diversity here. Nobody wants to take that one first?
So I can jump into that one.
Okay.
So
Good.
That's what's good about Michael.
yeah. I definitely, the masses would probably say I'm approachable, I'm tough, but I'm fair. And so I like to move fast. And, the expectation for everybody is that, they're going to move fast as well. So definitely they would say I have a high standard. And, but at the end of the day, I'm fair, and I will always roll up my sleeves, and I'll work side by side with everybody.
Yeah, it's a tough question. I think they believe I'm approachable. I would agree with that. I think also it's because I am the fourth generation and it's still under third generational leadership. So I'm inherently one I'm in the office more. They see me all the time, approachable, works in every department. So I have a lot more of like a personal relationship with a lot of our employees. I think they would say I'm the challenger. So I'm always challenging the status quo. And again, I think that's my role as fourth generation. It would be a disservice if I didn't do so. But yeah, those are the two that I would say. I'm a big I always say I'm hunting for a relentless communication. So constantly trying to get 360 communication in the organization, break down silos, understand people's perspectives, get their opinions on where they think that the business can improve. So yeah, I would say challenger.
And I'll just add to this that when I met Kristen, she was more than clear with me about what was unacceptable. And I actually appreciated it because there was no ambiguity there. It was quite clear what was acceptable based on what was unacceptable. Sandy, and just for full disclosure, I actually when I met Sandy and interviewed her to work for my consulting firm as a food consultant. So my initial meetings with her were, I thought, with me in control.
You thought?
Yes.
Little did you know. I would say probably loyal, fair. I'm a good listener. If people have problems, issues, personal problems, I think my family has always historically had the reputation of backing up loyalty also from people that have worked with us in the family. And there have been a lot of situations where there have been things that have been done privately to help people out that were not forgotten, and the loyalty was given back. So I'd say that's a very good, that's pretty much it. Loyal, fair. But if something needs to be done and some tough love needs to happen, it will happen.
Well, I don't know if this is somewhat of a gender predisposition or something about female leadership or not, and I don't want to get in trouble. But somewhat similar to Kristen, Sandy did a very difficult due diligence face to face with me, which I was not prepared for, to make sure that, you know, whoever entered that circle had cleared her perspectives on what should be in her circle or not in her circle. So she was quite clear about that.
But
So-
I can
Standards.
really, oh, sorry.
No, it's
No,
okay.
Kristen?
High standards.
Yeah, well, I would say like I really your adjective of loyal really speaks to me. That's it's like a foundational trait for myself and what I look in for people. So yeah, to your point of high standards, I give my loyalty, but it's got to be earned, and I'm very protective of the people that have already earned my loyalty.
Well, this has been for me a great panel, because I think families are always struggling inside their own little cocoons for what's done, what should be done, what do others do. So we really appreciate all of you being our guests, and also Rich and Steve for sponsoring the Family Business Association, and for your list of questions, because you knew I probably wouldn't have any without the two of you. So I really appreciate that. And I will turn it over to our producer, Jillian King. Hi, Jillian.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. What an important conversation for family businesses. That wraps up this final segment of our Spring 2024 FBA Family Business Panel discussion. Thank you to all our listeners and viewers who have tuned in for this panel. Links will be provided in the video's description below to parts 1 and 2, so be sure to check those out and click subscribe just below the video if you're on YouTube, or follow if you're listening on one of our podcast platforms to stay up to date on all our postings as they go live. If you're a fan of our videos, please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and press the bell button. It helps immensely. Radio Entrepreneurs is also active on LinkedIn, so be sure to follow our page there as well for more business advice and discussions all year long. Until next time, goodbye and thanks for listening. We'll be back with more stories on Radio Entrepreneurs.